Okay, so welcome to Okechukwu Talks, and in today's episode, we'll be diving into the fascinating world of storytelling, featuring the incredible journey of Deji Oshikoya.
Clap, 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 clap. How far, man?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. But personally, let me just tell these guys that we went to uni together and he used to proofread my some of my some of my
you, you know,
projects.
sir, you know something. It's funny that you bring that up. Before we actually get into it, I've actually always wanted to ask, why did you think I was worthy of proofreading your projects? Like, why did you feel like I'd be a good person to ask?
Um, I think your command of language, or let's say English, really was,
Fair,
yeah. There were just a
fair.
few people. It was you, Meadow, um, I think Cuddy.
Okay.
So those few people that really enjoyed reading a book, right?
Yeah, yeah, I get you. Yeah,
You know,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
So because
yeah,
if you're reading books, you most likely would sort of have adopted some of their structure,
absolutely,
personalized
absolutely.
into your own way.
Bro,
So
bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'll probably talk about this a little later. Like, reading is like jazz, man. It's like jazz. It's like you pick up a book, you
yeah,
scan over it a couple times with your eyes,
yeah,
the words enter your head,
yeah.
and then they stay there.
I'm
it's,
telling you,
it's
I
jazz.
agree. I agree. I agree.
It's jazz.
I can't particularly pick which apart from maybe like the storybooks and the likes, but the first book I ever finished, I think it was
Hmm.
one of my younger sister's books. If Funaya ever gets to watch this, maybe she should remind me in the comment section. But
Okay.
it's one of those fantasy books
Yeah.
that was really what put me on the map, in regards to reading novels. Then I now evolved into biographies. Like
Nice.
now, for example, I think I'm not sure if you read that is he losing my virginity or something like that by I think that's the name. Something relating to virginity or virgin,
Okay.
by
Okay.
Richard Branson.
Ah, no, actually, I haven't read that, but I know
Yeah,
he's dope.
yeah, his story of how he started,
Ah, fair.
evolved there. Because I'm sort of
Oh, of
like,
course, because Virgin, yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense now. Like, yeah, okay, I get it now. That's
yeah,
such a now that I think about it, man, like he's such a branding genius because even just the word virgin to have snatched it away from its actual meaning. Like when I
yeah,
think about virgin, I don't even think about sex or anything in that capacity. Like I think
yeah,
about a brand, which is
yeah,
insane.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's insane.
yeah, yeah.
That's insane. A lot of
Funny enough,
go on.
he was managing a band. He was managing a band, or will I say he was renting out a place for people to come record and do studios and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm not sure he was particularly, maybe someone could remind me in the comment section anyways, that he wasn't wealthy. His family wasn't particularly wealthy, to be fair,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
but it's an interesting book. That was one of them, Nelson Mandela's story, you know.
yeah,
Um, I also read Barack Obama's own, the
okay.
Audacity of Hope, right? Right?
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've dabbled in a few. I've dabbled in a few. Yeah,
No,
not,
biographies are super interesting, man.
yeah,
Super interesting. Like I think a lot of people get very like when you say you read so for example, I read nonfiction more than anything else, right? And people kind
yeah,
of get bent out of shape.
yeah,
It's like how can you only read nonfiction? Like fiction is great, like fantasy opening your mind, blah blah blah. But
yeah,
bro, I find people's real life stories so fascinating, like more fascinating than anything that somebody can conjure. Because it's
yeah,
like it sounds so insane, but the fact that it happened is like
yeah.
wow, like that's like worth 10 giants in my mind that you can create in your book,
I
because it's
agree.
just it's
I
too
agree.
crazy.
I agree.
It's too crazy.
I agree. If I think I've already mentioned like the Kickstarters in case anyone wants to really um, start reading any because I know that they're not like huge books, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's something anyone wants to listen to, or maybe even that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, right?
I heard about that book.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't read
So,
that one, but I've heard good things.
so they're relatable. They're basically relatable stories in a nutshell,
Yeah,
really. How he was
yeah,
flipping houses and all of that, and but they are practical books, really.
yeah,
Practical
yeah,
books,
yeah, yeah.
you
I
know.
think more than anything else, I just also I like to see risk spelled out the way they do in books. Like I like when I can see that the stakes are against someone, but they
Yeah,
decided to take the chance on themselves anyway. And it
yeah,
just sort of like maneuvered in the right direction ultimately. Because I think people underestimate how much luck features into a lot of these stories as well. Like you look at people and they've attained great wealth, great status in society, and it's like that guy must be so smart. And you realize that one day where somebody took a chance on him or he got a random phone call was
yeah,
what set his entire life in motion.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
always like really like resonates with me as well.
Yeah, yeah. If I remember correctly, I think Richard Branson actually has some form of health disorder. I think is it dyslexia or something like that. I've
I can
forgotten.
imagine.
I might be wrong, but as I said, someone will correct me in the comment section anyway.
Yeah,
So yeah, let's get into the crux of it, right?
sure, sure,
So let's just start. Maybe do like a roadmap for us. How you started.
sure.
This passion of storytelling.
Yeah,
Just walk us through it because you
yeah.
need to inspire upcoming guys.
No, even though I'm an upcoming guy too, but I can definitely help out.
Yeah,
Um, so I'll start from childhood actually. So I have a mother who is very particular, and I think I've said this before in like one of my videos, like
yeah,
very particular about vocabulary and English and things like that. She's a very proper woman in that way, right?
yeah,
And a proper woman raising her children, she's going to be intentional about how she does it.
yeah.
She's going to make sure that at the table you know how to use your fork and knife properly, like you
Okay.
know how to pronounce words correctly. Like my mom is the kind of person that would say we're going to silver bed, like the cinema. I should say
Yeah,
silver bed. Like she'll make sure like that I and R is respected. Like
yeah,
it's not silver bed, you
yeah,
know. So that kind of mother also would read us stories and things as kids. And just being in a household where like speaking proper was emphasized, it just naturally would rub off, right?
yeah,
So that was already like the foundational stages. And obviously, reading books was its own journey as well, because it's like,
yeah,
wow, like you put your eyes on this page and you're transported into another world. It was like
yeah.
maybe a toddler's closest thing to drugs, if not
Mm-hmm,
television, like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
outside of that, television is like, this is like, I'm not even here anymore.
Yeah,
So then that as well and really just falling in love with English, man. Like, bro, I cannot tell. I don't know why I love the English language so much. It's ridiculous. Like
yeah,
in primary school, essays, comprehension, always on that kind of thing.
yeah,
Secondary school, same thing. Like I was one of those students who I'd always do well in literature, and I probably should have scooped a ton of prizes, but I was the kind of person where it's like, if I've done well enough in the exam, I'm not going to kill myself over seeing
yeah,
it. Like
yeah,
it's just homework, man. Don't kill me. Like I can do it if I want. I was that kind of student.
yeah,
But I would always kill English exams. Niggas knew, like, I won't collect the prize, but niggas would come and check my English scripts, like, okay. This is what Deji is on, because they knew English was the place. And
yeah,
literature as well, because I just always loved books. And I think for as long as I remember, I don't like constraints when it comes to like my ability to think, my ability to create.
yeah,
So that's why English is fun for me. That's why literature is fun for me, because with math, with science, a lot of things are very strict in that way. 1+1 is 2. You follow certain atomic laws and several different things like that.
yeah,
But with literature, with essays, for example, you're allowed to infuse your personality into them. So I can
yeah,
write an essay and a teacher will find it funny because I intended on being funny.
yeah,
Math isn't really funny in the same way. Science
yeah.
isn't really funny. You
But
know,
think about
it's
it,
probably
DYDX though. DYDX. You
but
laughing?
it was only funny when I would get there and realize I don't know shit. Like the first thing you just start laughing, like what the hell? Like
Yeah.
this teacher has killed me. You know, but yeah, so going through that process and then finding myself more as an adult, man, there was a lot of breaking on the way because once upon a time, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. So I went to law school.
Okay.
Or not law school, like I did like a law undergraduate degree and I was supposed to go to law school after like a series of like figuring out what I was going to do. Like it's a long story, but I'll just get to this part.
Yeah.
I thought because I was doing more art stuff. So I started in the sciences, did chemistry. I think chemistry was my first F ever. So after I was done, I moved to arts. And then being in the arts, you know how I was in Nigeria at the time now. I mean, lots of people's parents are thinking differently now. And I wouldn't say my parents forced me. It was just the perception that was in the end. I mean, the air. You were either doing medicine, you were either doing business, you were either doing was medicine business of some sort. I guess like accounting probably falls into that place. And then law was the last one, engineering as well. And then law was the last one because it's like, okay, I'm not doing any sciences. So this is just the natural progression for a degree that is considered prestigious. Did this for 2 years and I flunked. I didn't flunk because I wasn't worthwhile or worthy of doing that. I flunked because I just wasn't going to classes.
Fair enough.
I wasn't going to class. I got to a place where I'm just like, man, like, as much as I want to kill myself for this P, like, I mean, every single class miserable. Like, I'm miserable. And I'm seeing people who are actually here for this. Like, they want to do this. And they're killing it because they're invested. And I'm just this.
They're
like,
passionate about that.
They're passionate about it. You can tell the difference between them and you. They're smoking it in class and you're just there like, man. So, what happened? Well, after that, like, obviously, I flunked out, came back to Nigeria, ended up in Pan Atlantic, which is where we went to school. And in that way, I sort of kind of found myself a little because I was studying mass communications, and mass communications is like a free world. As a matter of fact, they're phasing out the mass communications degree because it's too wide. You come out of a mass communications degree and you don't know where you're going to land. You could do public relations, you could do a million things, but now they want to specify, so you pick one and specialize, which is good. It's also bad. In my situation, it's good because it allowed me to explore as many of the skills as possible. So things that I knew I always wanted to do, they became my coursework. You know, and that was amazing for me because I started to find myself, started meeting other creatives, seeing people my age doing incredible things, people younger than me. So PA, you know, PA, that community is crazy now. Like niggas walking around with cameras, just so much creativity in the air. You know, even if you're in another course, like you were in another course, but you could see it. You could just see it. It's like it's acting film. You get it. PA is actually incredible. It's one of my favorite parts of my story because when I first walked in there, I walked in there with like an upper brow kind of like, I'm coming from Jan. Like, there's no way I'm ending up here, you know? I'll get maybe to this later, but PAU and my first roommate is key to one of the biggest testimonies that I've had in my personal life. So to think, and I'm religious as well, so like my faith in God ties into all this, but to think that the place that I was turning my nose up at, my roommate in my first year, his sister was going to be responsible for for a job that I had prior to now that was giving me the most money that I'd ever seen in my life. So, you know, like there's just an amount of intentionality in people's stories where you can see things connecting to other things. But anyways, I skipped through that, come to PAU, and then I'm at my last job, and I'm there for a while. I think about a year and some change. And okay, and obviously in PA, I should also mention that in PA I was doing voiceovers and stuff. So I was already kind of building the talents of like trying stuff. Because another thing I should mention is that when I was growing up as well, I used to idolize people who spoke well. So radio personalities, actors, just whatever. Like I just idolized them to the point where I would copy them when I had like my own like private time. So I would mimic the voices and things like that. When I was by myself, I would have like whole interviews just by myself. Like I'm the interviewer, I'm the interviewee, answering questions, correcting particular like parts of like my phonetics. So like if I say a word incorrectly and I read it somewhere, like I hear somebody properly pronounce it, I'll make a note of it. An example, I was in pre-university and these two Jamaican kids were talking and I said one of them was so hilarious. And they corrected me and it's like, nah, the word is hilarious. I never forgot. I literally never forgot. And the thing is, there's no hard and fast rule that says you have to pronounce words a certain way. Like, for example, like Gatesman is Gatesman. It should be Gatesman, but Nigerians say Gatesman, so it's going to be Gatesman. However, in my head, I always have the proper pronunciation there just because it matters to me. I cannot tell you why, but it just matters to me. Like, it's my whole history. And there's some things that I'm like a little lighter on myself on because, for example, I've lived in 3 separate places. I've lived in Canada, I've lived in the UK, and I've lived in Nigeria. And I don't have any one specific accent. You can hear like 10 of them inside the way that I speak. Definitely. Just because at the end of the day, I have to retain some authenticity to myself. My gift of speaking is something that I've discussed with God. Like it's something that I have a lot of conviction on that I know is taking me somewhere, but I just always haven't had the pieces. But like prior to like this situation I was talking about that happened in my office, I've been praying to God about what I was supposed to do with my gift and whatever, and I'd been creating content, content that I would pray over to. And then eventually, after that experience, I was like, I need options. So I put that video out there about me talking about voiceovers and stuff.
I remember. I saw it. I saw it.
Bro, and first and foremost, the amount of support that I got, it was mind-blowing. I I don't know that I've ever experienced something like that before. Like I remember I was having a conversation with my mom where I was like, what is it called when people take your matter personally? And it's like, oh, maybe you're a personable guy and they like you. I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. Like, I mean, what is it called when a person carries your matter as if it's theirs? I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's favor. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So it kind of puts a word to what it was I was feeling. It was favor. Like
Yeah.
niggas, I still look at the thing sometimes because Instagram gives you the number of people that shared it, and it was in the hundreds. And
Yeah.
that video very soon, hopefully, I think should be at maybe 20K or thereabouts. I can't remember. And it's still just so insane because why did they take that time out first and foremost? And then outside of that, why has it just continued to bless me?
Yeah.
But that video has blessed me so many times over. I'll give you an example. I left my job in March.
Yeah.
I left my job in March. And there's this verse in the Bible that says, what does it say? It says, don't worry about what you eat or drink. It was a verse that I had understood before, but now that I live by myself, because I moved out to my father's house,
Yeah.
and this message has just become more real to me because
Mm-hmm.
even something as little as that video and like the relationships I built and the knowledge that people have of me doing voiceovers, I'd
Yeah.
be getting jobs randomly,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
randomly,
Yeah.
outside of even just voiceovers, other stuff as well, and just so many different opportunities. So I think for me, getting started was I started in school. I was doing small voiceovers here and there. People
Yeah.
would always tell me I had a good voice, but I didn't really know what I was going to be able to use it for. And then, like time just goes on. I keep trying it. I drop that video, and all of a sudden, I have another career to chase. And it's just one part. So that's the funniest thing. There's so many other elements to this whole thing that I'm doing, but we'll get to that. Sorry.
So, interestingly enough, while I was working, right, God bless his soul, anyways, my late associate director said the same thing to me and told me that, yo, Kichka, I think you should do this.
Mm.
And he was also telling me about how, rather than using my voice to be, serenading the feminine entities, you know, of my entity. He sort of, so I think it was now while, we were having I think it was COVID. Was it COVID? No, after
Yeah,
COVID. I think towards like the beginning of this year, and I decided I think actually I give, credit to a friend of mine in my estate, and I decided to now say, okay, you know what? Okay, should we come and do a video? And that was why, I now chose to also do a video just to say, okay, you know what, let me actually start it. But the
yeah,
interesting thing about it is that I've noticed that, the level of commitment in which you have can also, determine the level of success in which you have, right?
absolutely, yeah,
So I think that's where you now need, in terms of emphasizing that, the things that you had to forego, because I've never forgone anything yet, right? I'm still, you know, I'm still, but I think you need to sort of give us, the kind of things you had to forego, the kind of things that had to make you better, the kind of
yeah,
things that, made you, the kind of things that you need to focus on to actually, ensure that the path in which you're climbing is a
yeah,
successful one. So I think you need to just
yeah.
emphasize on that for us. Yeah.
Sure, sure. I think a lot of it is still being built, but I'll put it this way. The biggest thing that I think any creatives, one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever received as a creative and even just as a human being, was from Two Faces manager. So I used to work for Chocolate City,
Yeah.
and they had like one of those team building type, I guess seminar type things. So they
Yeah.
invited Two Faces manager Ife. I can't remember
Yeah.
his last name. I wish I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, he said he was talking about back in the day when he would work with P Square. So like
Yeah.
he would do some work with P Square.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he described it was that with P Square, anything was possible. And
Yeah.
what he meant by that was that their work ethic allowed anything to be possible. Like he said they took their jobs as seriously as like a pilot takes his.
Yeah.
Like picture it as this: the creative industry is a place where it's a lot of liberties are encouraged, right? So whereas in another place, maybe like a bank, for example, like you wouldn't dream of drinking on the job. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
even dream about it. In the
Mm-hmm.
creative industry, your superior might see you bring out a drink and grab a glass. Like it's very enabling.
Yeah, very, very,
it's
very, very.
it's very enabling. So to say that um you need a level of seriousness that a pilot might need, in the sense that he probably could get drunk the night before he travels, but
Yeah,
the severity of this situation is more likely to result in a pilot getting an early night sleep. Like, it's that serious,
yeah,
you know. So the advice then would be to the creative to treat their creative work in the same vein. And I'm not saying that to say that I've perfected it. I'm still on my way, to be honest with you. Building routine,
yeah,
especially when you're the only person holding the cane, can be tough. It
yeah,
can be tough because, like, you can always forego the cane. Like, just
yeah,
today, I don't feel like flogging myself and I'm just
yeah,
going to chill, you
yeah,
know. But that's the goal ultimately, to take it extremely seriously. There's a level that I think every creative needs to aspire to, where you don't have to demand respect.
okay,
Everything that you've put around yourself naturally will radiate it.
okay,
I think about like a Thames, for example. Thames is like always the most extreme example that everybody uses, super testimony and all, but like, you don't have to think too hard about taking Thames seriously.
yeah,
Everything around her is giving her that acclaim. And the thing is, you don't even need it externally. It's down to like how you dress, how you post on social media. Like, it's
yeah,
everything. It's
yeah,
everything. It should be taken extremely serious. The creative industry in general can be really fun, you know, and you can get lost in that fun and not grow.
yeah,
That's just what it is. Like, you'll be the happening guy, you'll be at all the shows, like people invite you for things, but you look in your personal life and realize you haven't really gone anywhere. You've just been
yeah,
having fun. You
yeah,
have to be very intentional
yeah,
about foregoing the fun and doing the hard parts. Well, okay, the example I was going to give was of an upcoming fashion creator or whatever.
mm-hmm.
Bro, people downplay that path so much because it looks like fun. The amount of effort that goes into it, I'll give you two. The amount of money that has to be spent on clothes and upkeep and makeup, number one.
Yeah,
Number two, even just the bravery to be able to set up your tripod in public places. I look at that thing and I'm like, these people are insane. But when you see the actual content, it's like, okay, I get it, but I could never. Like, what? I'm sorry. Like, I don't want this thing that badly. You know, so but that's like, the babes who are on it and grind, I give them so much respect, because bro, it's
yeah,
like, you wouldn't even know there's nobody else in that room. You
yeah,
won't know.
yeah. In fact,
You
the
won't
way
know.
they would do it, you wouldn't even think there's a camera, like in the manner in which,
Bro,
yeah,
bro,
yeah.
scripting. Like, niggas are telling me, oh, like, can you know, it's hard. It's hard to be a slave queen. It's hard.
I'm
It's
telling
hard.
you, man.
It's hard. Everything is hard. And the thing is, like, another reason why it's not even worth shitting over is like, bro, look at how much that's a whole economy on its own now. The beauty markets. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
And just even clothes, you know. So that's what my rule for that would have been. I could only date a creative. They took it super seriously, which is also why I'm trying to become a creative that's super serious, because someone should have that expectation
yeah.
of me as well. But that's really it, man. Routine is everything, man. I
Mm,
think it just, for me, fortunately, I'll say that like my speaking and like podcasting and all this stuff, in as much as like I have my backstory, is also backed by God.
yeah,
Like, I specifically remember asking God what I was supposed to do with my voice and all of this, and he told me, like, he has given me an instruction, so I follow that. But outside of that, I think routine will take you where talent won't. That's the honest truth. Like, you think about so many great people, even footballers. I was thinking about Hazard recently, like, who just retired. And Hazard and Salah used to be a conversation once upon a time, like, who's better, Hazard or Salah? The conversation doesn't exist anymore, except you're super emotional. Why? Because Salah's output over the years has, and not to make this a football thing, I'm just trying to give, like, his output has stayed consistent. Injury hasn't gotten in the way. He's been available. And a lot of it can be bad luck as well. Like, who's to say who gets injured more than the other person? But now that argument doesn't exist. And parts of the reason why it doesn't exist as well is defined by the fact that Salah's work ethic is through the roof and
yeah,
Hazard's doesn't compare. That's just the
yeah,
honest truth.
yeah,
Even though Hazard is definitely a more talented player, a more pretty player, it makes things look so easy. Salah looks like he's trying his hardest to
yeah,
make them to achieve the same things, but the output is there. Essentially, I'm just saying that I would say like routine
yeah.
will take you where talent will. Like, but I think about, say, person, I'll give you some examples. There's this artist, Russ. Yeah, he was on Ashake's album, Russ, famous independent artist. I've referenced him a lot of times because if a model that he puts out, where he was putting out, I think a new single every month, I believe, for like a year or something like that. Yeah, I think that's about that. A new single every month or every week. Either way, ridiculous. For a year. I think every week for a year.
Yeah.
Ridiculous, because he realized that on SoundCloud, this was in SoundCloud era as well. Like on SoundCloud, most people had enough time to just listen to the intro of a project, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't dedicate time to the rest. So they'll definitely listen to your intro because something new is out, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't go to the rest of the project. So he just isolated the intro and gave them multiple intros, essentially, like just singles. And think about that kind of work ethic. If that person lands something, you'd be silly to call them lucky.
Yeah.
You need to call them lucky because all it took was one to click and everything else just kind of picked up from there. He was also building his community in that time. So
Yeah.
if you remember correctly, when I was telling you about the story, I was talking about how I was dumbfounded by the amount of people that root for me. It's
Yeah.
not something I can say I can actively recreate because a lot of it is grace as well. But I
Yeah.
promise you that treating people nice also
Yeah. It
helps you
goes a
get to
long
where
way.
you're trying to go to. Bro, because even if people hate you, as long as people love you, like I hate to be a preachy guy, but I was talking to a friend today, and it's just a biblical perspective I can maybe bring into like regular stuff.
Yeah.
But the way the Bible attacks a person, the Bible describes that he kills. I mean, he steals, kills, and destroys.
Choice. Yeah.
So stealing, for example, like he pulls you out of, like takes you away, to take you
Yeah.
away. And isolation, I think isolation, the same way to kill you in a biblical perspective, it's to kill you as a creative as well. A lot of
Yeah.
creatives suffer from this thing of like wanting to do everything by themselves. And you absolutely can do it for a really long time. You
Yeah.
can do it for a really long time. But I promise you, you'll make better content collaborating.
Yeah.
It'll take less time. The
Yeah.
quality will be up, like by collaborating, because bro, I can't count the number of that video that I recorded, the very first one. My
Yeah.
friends forced me to do it. They forced me to do it. I was telling them about something I wanted to do for a while. It's like, nah, we'll just switch on this camera. We'll run it. I'll be feeding you questions. And my guy just kept feeding me questions. I kept talking, and it just happened that way. So that's another thing I would emphasize, man. Community, bro. Like, you don't know who knows who has come across what. But there's one crazy testimony that I'm going to drop soon. I just need to be full first. I let it come together, and then I'll drop it, because how, and part of it is community. Literally, part of it is community. So yeah, man, like there's so many elements to this thing, but routine, community. I also appreciate when someone has a spiritual anchor. And the reason I say that as well is, like, I think you need to know what your thing is too. Like you need to be, there's this Eastern philosophy they describe as, I think it's Taoism, it's called Taoism. I read about it for a while. I might have even dabbled, but it's the way it describes, like, its philosophy, I guess, is like surrender to the natural order of things. So surrender to nature. Think about a leaf that is blowing in the wind versus a blade of grass that is rooted in the ground. When the wind comes, both of their positions change somewhat, right? Like, so the leaf feels the wind and it blows wherever the wind says. So it starts here, the wind blows, it moves to a new position, starts here, moves, new position.
Yeah.
The blade of grass feels the wind as well. So the wind hits it, and of course it shakes because the wind is strong. But as soon as the wind stops, what happens? It goes back to its rooting.
Yeah.
Now, I say that to say, as far as like creating as well, you need a root. I believe you need a root. I think apart from the fact that authenticity also, I think, sells more when people can just tell you're being authentic. I also just think you need to have something that ensures you're not going haywire. Because this is also another place where it's like, for clout or for like, money, you'll do whatever.
Yeah.
You do whatever. It just happens. Like, there was a Nigerian producer the other day who I saw was cloud chasing. I was so ashamed because, like, that guy is like one of the greatest producers ever. Don't worry, it's not Don Jazzy. I'll never talk about Don Jazzy like that. But somebody that used to be somebody back then, and he's still somebody now, but like, it's not any way we can respect. It's not any way I can respect.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important to have that foundation as well. For me, I try as much as possible to ensure, and I don't need to preface this. My foundation is Jesus. Like, I'm trying to lead, even if I'm falling from it. Ultimately, that's what I'm trying to get back to, by lead me, because one more thing that I'll end on, so I'm just not going in circles a million times.
Yeah.
When I was creating those videos, I essentially relinquished it for Jesus to creative direct them for me, because the things that have happened, I could not script them. I could not script them. Not the family feud opportunity that I spoke about, not even the way people supported me, and not about even the stuff that's coming in the future. Like, there's so much stuff on the horizon as well, So that was like my base. It was in agreement with God that this thing was going to sprout in like the way that he would be proud of. Maybe not everybody has that same exact experience, but I think it's important to have a center, a reminder of why you're doing things. So you don't just, and another thing about like not being authentic is that it's not sustainable. That's what lots of people don't realize. It's not sustainable. Apart from the fact that you will get tired of your inauthenticity eventually, I feel like it's also just like, imagine having to think and create things as somebody else when you could literally just pull from within. So yeah, that's part of why I think having a center is important. I mean, do things that are true to you. Those are the things that people actually want to see. Those are the things people actually resonate with, and I'll speak for myself. Those are things I personally resonate with. And yeah, that's my long, very super long-winded answer.
No, so I think what you said, everything makes so much sense. In fact, it actually reminds me of, when parents are sort of advising you, especially, okay, let me give myself as an example, right?
Okay.
You are going to school and your dad is telling you, please focus on God. Don't be distracted by women.
Bro.
Focus on this, do this. So I think in a nutshell, right, it's like a universal principle, right?
Yeah.
Ensure that one, you are grounded with God, right? It's not even about being religious, it's just a fact, right? You just need to be grounded with God, right? Then after that, even though that's the oga pata pata, right? So after that, you're now saying, okay, you know what? As you said, what is your center? What is your focus?
Yeah.
What is, what do you really want to do? Because at the end of the day, it still boils down to passion, right? You're passionate.
Absolutely.
You're passionate about what you're doing, and the process of being passionate about it, God is also blessing and motivating
you. Absolutely.
Because
my God.
if you're not able to carry on, like in the sense that you're not passionate about something, it's been so easy for you to, sway left to right?
Oh, bro, so many challenges.
Right? So that's when it now comes down to this question, in the sense that how do you now, because everly you're going to have issues. They must have been issues, right? Either as a result of, as you said, I am focusing on this full time, right? It's not as 100% certain as a proper 9 to 5 would be. That is
of course. It's very volatile, extremely
very
volatile.
Because in the process whereby if you don't get a gig this period, then you are looking for the next gig, and at the same time you're most likely going to be meeting people in the industry, because it's also a universal knowledge that the industry can be quite funny, right? So how have you navigated yourself through this stage? Because everly, as I said, you're going to fall. You're going to fall short sometimes. So
of course, absolutely. And I love that you asked that. Because something I did mention before. So before leaving my job, I should put this out there because I don't want any creatives to get any crazy ideas. I saved a lot of money. A lot of money. The way I reasoned it was, I want to give myself 1 year to chase things that I want to chase. And I want to have the money to sustain as much as I can. I don't have $1 billion, but I have enough that if I don't go to Quilox and I don't go out and eat too much,
you can survive.
Absolutely.
You can still have
so that's where it started. Brother, very important. So that was my number one. So before I left my job, I thought that through first. So I want to say that. And things that I've not been the person. It's not like I haven't quit a job without knowing what I was going to do next, but God has been merciful in allowing me to like have some stuff. Okay. So now with challenges, there've been a few. One, insecurity. And it's a thing I don't think a lot of people will talk about. One of the things that I think gives us our security in ourselves, unfortunately, is our work. It's unfortunate because you should be a full person whether or not you earn a salary, but that's just society, right? So occasionally, like in this stage now, for example, because the plan hasn't come fully into fruition, people ask, what do you do? And honestly, I want to say I'm me, and it's a full-time job, but I can't. So occasionally you might like start like putting things together and making a mishmash, when ultimately I know my answer is that I'm me. Like that's my job.
Yeah.
and people will pay me for being me. But that's not how it goes. You live in the world. So occasionally you get those things of like, you question if you're doing the right thing. Because I'm coming from a 9 to 5 as well. So I know that world. I know that about the insurance it gives you, like security as well, things like that, benefits, all that good stuff. So to take that away, you really have to stand solid on what it is you're doing. And before I quit my job, somebody said to me, he said, you need to make sure that your security doesn't come from your self-esteem doesn't come from what's in your bank account. And at the time, because I was very excited about quitting, I was like, yeah, I hear you. But now it's making sense to me.
Yeah.
Because it's not travel money. I don't have money to travel. I don't have money to do a lot of things that like I might see. And if I don't have that strength in myself to be like, it's fine for now, like I will be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So it's being able to just address that in yourself and don't allow the insecurity to get out of hand. And some of the ways that help, obviously the wins are great. But like I said, it's just about reminding yourself why you do it, refreshing your conviction. If you need to read things that inspire you, do it. Like if it's self-help books that will ensure that you don't feel like you're losing your mind on this road, do it. Interact with creatives as well. Hearing their stories will really push you. Nigerian creatives are doing so many incredible things, but that was one. Another one I was going to go to, the second one I was going to go to is negotiating. So I've had some trouble with negotiations because this is very fresh. I think there are resources that I could possibly tap into. Like I can reach out to people and stuff and ask questions, but a lot of it is still new to me. So even like I got one very unique proposition. An artist, his team wanted, and an artist I really rate, his team wanted to work with me. Just in, I can't really go into the details on it, but I wanted to do some work together, Sha. And I think I might have fumbled it with how I negotiated because I was trying to like, it was very just difficult to understand exactly what the context is. And the craziest part is that I've probably done that shit for free. But I guess my brain was just in a place where it's like, I think I should get something out of this. And I think I chased them away. And I've had similar stuff where it's like somebody is like reaching out about doing something. I just never hear from them again once you name your price. Yeah. So like, it's been difficult at times to kind of strike the balance of like, okay, what is too much versus what is too little? Okay. And I cannot tell you I've perfected it, to be quite honest with you. But I'm at peace with it right now because, I mean, I'm still getting stuff. I'm still getting like ideas on certain things versus others. Yeah. And I think, to be honest, I am very like okay with not particularly having a lot of leverage right now. Yeah. Obviously being that like most people reach out to you because they want you to do something for them, as opposed to like you, as opposed to coming to you specifically for you, as per like they want your brand attached with theirs. And that's something I'm working towards, and it's one of the reasons that I'm so grateful. Like there's stuff on the horizon pointing in that direction, but for now, like I'm really just at peace, learning by doing. You know, just learning by doing, understanding what is too much time versus like too little time in maybe doing somebody's voiceover or something like that. Yeah, putting money and putting figures to hosting gigs and things like that. Because that's another thing, right? So it's not just podcasting, it's not just voiceover, it's like a whole thing. Like there's stand-up comedy attached to it as well. I posted a clip of me doing stand-up on my Insta and like all my social media, which got like an interesting reaction as well. Like these things just kind of bring attention my way. But that's another thing. Even though I think I only posted the safest joke that I made on the day, I couldn't post other things as well because like I'm representing Jesus. So like there's like a limit. But the thing is, those jokes were jokes that I've had forever and I just had to get them off. And they were really funny, but I don't think their jokes are repeats. But yeah, stand up, hosting things. I remember seeing the rate card of one of these wedding MCs, a fairly popular celebrity who also MCs weddings. And when I saw it, I wanted to run mad because I'm like, bro, you're telling me you're getting this every weekend? Yeah. And yeah, because there are weddings every weekend. There's calls every weekend. Weddings fly people out of the country. I know of a guy who was in Scotland 1 second, he was in the US the next. And it's like, why in the hell are they insistent on flying this guy across? Because his brand is a brand they want to be attached to. His value, the value that he brings is value they want at their wedding as far as like his entertainment and whatever it is that he brings to the table. So like, I think for me, the blueprint is I'm doing everything within reason.
Yeah.
So I'll put it this way. Earlier in the year, I decided that everything that I was even up to a 6 at, Boya is rapping. If I can rap and it's 6/10, or my looks are 6/10, or my dress sense is 6/10, anything that I possess that could possibly bring attention my way, wholesome attention. Like I'm not just going to do anything, but like attention that I can use for something, I'm going to attempt it, every single thing. Because if I can't go somewhere based on the things that I'm good at, then what is it going to be? Do you get like what is it actually going to be? It's not going to be like, I don't know, astrophysics. Like I'm not that guy. So why am I now going to at close to like being in my late 20s, for example, just going to decide that I want to go and chase astrophysics? It's like I can do anything. But like you have strengths that you haven't even fully fleshed out yet, you know. So every last one of my strengths, I'm using them to my advantage. And I'm very grateful and very lucky that what I have, which is a voice, is something that can fetch me money in so many different ways. But the people think just voiceovers, but there's a million and one things, man, that you can do with the voice. You can voice act. You can freaking, like, people will call you to narrate something on their album. You know, like there's so many different things, like, and outside of that as well, like conversation. For having a good voice, being able to hold conversation is like, it's like hypnotism. It's like hypnotism. Like you can literally hypnotize people with that. It's not something I ever really tried. Like younger me definitely used it to my advantage, right? But like now I'm just.
But you remember what I said before we started this conversation? I was like, yo, don't go take it, don't worry.
bro, it's so important. It's so important because it's power. I'm not gonna lie. The value of a voice, my goodness, like it can be so powerful. Even in the Bible, I didn't share it earlier, but I feel comfortable sharing it because it's a part of my story. When I asked God what I should do with my voice, he responded with a verse, and I should know the verse by heart, but whatever. I think it's in Hebrew. And it says, do you have the gift of speaking? Then speak as though God were speaking through you. So with my voice, it's supposed to carry an authority as if like I was a speaker for God, right? And that confidence in moving with it as well is like a confidence that is beneficial more than even just like maybe being convincing. Like it sells itself. It sells itself. Like a confident voice, a confident speaker sells itself. So yeah, like that's just like a key. Outside of negotiating, I think I said insecurity negotiating. You also get rejected quite often. I don't even know if I want to call rejections a struggle anymore. I think rejections, honestly, to be so honest with you, I think they're gifts. They are gifts. Like you never go away from a rejection without learning, in my opinion. And sometimes people is like, oh, they want to know why they were rejected. And I don't think it's as relevant as bouncing back from it. It's like, it's why you were rejected. The second you've been rejected, start thinking of your way to work back, because being able to push past the rejection, the resilience it will give you, that's the only lesson that matters. Do you get like, so like with me this year alone, oh my goodness, bro, I've chopped them. It's always so funny when like you even get rejected for something that somebody reached out to you for, as per like they brought the opportunity to your table, and in the midst of it, somehow, it doesn't pan out. And it's like, but you came to meet me, but you learn not to take it personal. You learn not to take it personal. It's just business. And I think as a creative as well, we should resist, and I can only speak for myself. I think you should resist the urge to prove people wrong. You should resist it. It's a waste. It's a waste because it can power you, but it's not even an authentic powering, because the second you let go of your grudge, it's like, okay, like what now? And of course, like maybe you'd be fortunate that that thing will power you, and then maybe you don't have that fall off. But I've seen it's just like consume people in a weird way, where it's like you chase success to prove people wrong, or a certain person wrong, and that person dies. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with your hurts now? You know, like what are you going to do with your... So I'd rather they fed into themselves more. I think it sucks when I see creatives go down the I did all of this by myself route, because it's just not true.
Yeah.
It's just never true. Like there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a self-made person. There's no such thing as a self-made creative. You know, it's not true. Like you will get a lot of help along the way. The niggas on YouTube that you watch, it's free, but they helped you. They give you information that you didn't have before. The person that enabled you to be able to set up your camera properly. Do you get, like, you can't possibly say you did it by yourself. But that temptation is always there. It's always there. Everybody wants to be the first to do something. Everybody wants to be the good. Unimportant. I think it's unimportant anyway. It's unimportant. Like, my friend today said to me something very profound. Wale, you know him. And we're talking about like prosperity and like success, because he's Christian as well. So we're just having one of those conversations. And he said, and this is just very random, but like even money as well is something that I would like, and it's very easy for me to speak from a place of privilege, but like, don't do it for the money. I would love to stress that, like, do as much as you can to ensure that you're afloat, but like, don't let money be your primary motivation. Because like, even just speaking to Wale about what I was talking about, he said, if what you're selling to an unbeliever
out of curiosity, this Wale is the Wale I know, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so he was
shout out to him, by the way.
Shout out Wale, awesome guy. He was saying that if we're selling people on the dream that God is going to make them rich, so let's say God will give you 1 billion, right? Dangote can give you 2. Do you get? Like, he can give you 2. So does that mean that's like Dangote is greater than God? No, because what you're in it is not for the money. If you're working with God, you're working for direction. Like, you're working to be guided, right? And I'd love to kind of like just bring this down into a creative point of view where it's like, I think apart from remembering exactly why you do it, I don't think your creativity, right, should be something that anybody can attach money to and just take from you. Do you get? Like, so if you had something you stood on early in your career, because money gets dangled in your face, now it's something that you won't do it's something that you'd be open to doing. It's just such a nasty road to go down. Yeah. It's a nasty road to go down. But yeah, that's me on my own little 2 cents. I hope I'm not coming across too preachy, but like, I just
no. Actually, that's the way to go, to be fair, you know. But yeah, so basically, you know, from all this, we can sort of tell that there's a learning curve. There's no perfect way.
Sure.
There's no perfect way of doing anything.
You make mistakes.
You know, everybody has their own road. Just because your road is, you know, going this way doesn't necessarily mean apply to another person, right?
Absolutely.
So in the midst of everything that you have said now, so the question will now be more of, do you have a mentor? Do you have like an advisor or a guide, you know, that sort of, you know, runs you through? Because the thing about it is that it's easy to just, you know, miss it. That's the honest truth, right? You know, it's sometimes I could even say, okay, maybe your mom could have been, but the fact of the matter is that mom is not in your industry. So, so you wouldn't probably have the form of experience that you would likely need in this. Yeah, she could pray for you and give you motherly advice and everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, you sort of need that individual that could be like, hey, no,
exactly, that's too.
So that's one. That's one. So, you know, I know you're gonna. So, you know, after that, you know, you also want to now give let's be as transparent as possible, because the fact about it is that, as you said, you are actually coming from a place slightly from privilege, in the sense that
absolutely,
in the sense that you did have like a soft landing in regards to
absolutely 1000%.
Yeah. So. I think you should also give us the context of how it would have probably been without those, you know.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. You know, that's fine.
Then I think from, you know, just to make it more, it's interesting how I'm still getting work mails at this time, man.
The grinders and stuff.
Oh my goodness. The grinders. My prayers for you. But yeah, so I think maybe have like just, you know, discuss those 2 points, then we could address some other things. So I'm not overburdening a lot, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, so I'll say from the privilege point of view, the greatest privilege that I had, especially living in my parents' house, was my ability to save. 1000%. It's like living in your parents' house, you can save way more than you can. It's like every single one of those amounts.
So what you're meant to be doing is advising people stop running away quick because you want because you want to be carrying women.
Bro, there's something to that. So I'm not going to lie to you, because I think there's also that pressure on young men as well to like have their own place. But if you have nobody that is chasing you, man, milk is for as long as possible. What is privilege if you don't use it? That's how I see it.
Basically, so you know,
the work of your forefathers would have been wasted if you just took the privilege to do what everybody else is doing. Like,
they start struggling. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Go on.
So I'll preface it with that. Obviously, like, everybody's situation is different, so not everybody can afford to take bets on themselves. But you know something I'll say?
Yeah.
Just speaking to the security thing. A friend of mine, I was talking to him about like how I feel like even if I was going to fail, I had like a lot of security backing me. Security in the form of my parents, security in the form of family.
Yeah.
Just in general. Just security in that regard where like I wouldn't fall. There'll be people to catch me.
Yeah.
And he said to me something that really messed with my mindset. Like, it really shifted something. He said, even the people who so-called don't have security, people who don't have that necessary community, a person who says, for example, when things are lacking, man, almost something will turn up. Something will turn up eventually. That's his version of security. That's his version of security. And it's not to say that that version of security can buy him anything that he wants at any moment, or like will always ensure that there's food in his cupboard or whatever. But fam, like, the amount of things that just having willpower will do for you. The image of Francis Ngannou popped into my head. UFC boxer UFC fighter and MMA fighter, I should say, who crossed the Atlantic to try and get into Paris. You know, like he was in the deserts as a refugee trying to get to Europe from Cameroon.
Okay, so just not to cut you short here, and
talk to me.
You know, funny enough, I had a conversation about selective hearing. You know, earlier on, right? And you know, earlier on, you were mentioning something about how you know, you don't want to leave off that drive of trying to prove people wrong, right? Francis Ngannou that you just mentioned, is a case scenario of trying to prove people wrong.
I love it. I love it. Let me tell you, I won't even lie to you. Spite is powerful as hell.
Yeah.
Spite is so powerful. I think ultimately, whatever gets you to the dance, I'm maybe not as strict on it. I think I just take it away. So it's like people don't have to deal with the ultimate fights within themselves that I think comes from wanting to prove people wrong all the time. And some people don't even have it as bad. Like, some people can live like that for the rest of their life and it doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie to you. That thing is powerful. It's powerful. In my personal life, I'll just say, I've seen it depart from you once you feel like you have nothing to prove anymore. And then it's like a new, like, okay, what else is there? Do you get
it?
That's really what it
always comes. Something
fair. There's always something else.
Because you know the hierarchy of needs, you know, the master
absolutely.
Something always comes. Because
so you meet food and there's something else. Yeah,
there's always something. Yeah. So once you're done proving people wrong, because like now, Ngannou has proved people wrong already.
Again and again and again and again.
In his mind, he's just more of, I know my worth now. Because literally, where he is right now is as a result of him knowing his worth.
Absolutely.
He priced himself out as a result of knowing his value.
That he could get more.
Was going to be my third point in regards to, you know, as I said, while you're done with these 2 points, in terms of now expressing, how do you now put a value to what you do? What would you say, you know, is the driver when you're making a decision on what gig to take, you know, how you price yourself? But I said that is after you address the two. I didn't just want to overload you with my...
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm a consultant, so you understand where my...
Nah, it's calm. It's calm. Pricing is it's very much still touch and go. Excuse me. Certain clients, you can tell, even just by the way they approach you, that they are more capable of, you know, giving you certain prices or whatever. So there's also an allowance for that.
Yeah.
I think being able to trust your gut regarding if something could be a good opportunity for you is great. Like one of the benefits of privilege as well is like it allows you to think of stuff from a vantage point.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're not taking things out of desperation.
Yeah.
So the advice then that you should be able to recognize the value of something, even though it doesn't necessarily have a paycheck to it, is something that'll be able to resonate with you. Because some opportunities, in as much as like things like unpaid internships are wild, if you have the luxury of doing an unpaid internship and you're aware that it will elevate your career, you will do it because you can see the value.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes that guides me as well, where it's like, okay, I see the value in this thing. The money difference isn't enough for me not to take this opportunity because it could be big for me, because it also looks great on my CV.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, there's that aspect to it as well. I think also help, just asking people questions when I can.
Yeah.
I have friends who work in the industry as well. So it's also just like being able to pick their brains for stuff. And to be honest with you, like the way this is going to go, the way my career is going to pan out, I'm going to need management, right? So that's something that I'm already big on. I've already identified 2 of my friends who work in the industry who I think would be great to work with, just so like I'm not as burdened by having money conversations. Like I want to be abreast. I want to be able to like have conversations about value. After all, these things affect me.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just helps to be able to defer.
Yeah.
You know, so I think those are the 2 key things for now. Just playing it by ear, largely recognizing which opportunities might be worthwhile, even though they don't pay the best.
Yeah.
Asking for help. And I think also, as soon as I elevate in my career the way that I plan to, the prices will naturally just go up. It'll just go up. Like, and I think people, and it goes back to me like surrounding myself seriously, like making yourself appear serious, kind of like a pilot might, right? There's a way a person will package that you shake before you call a stupid number for them. You know, so
I agree.
So that's really it. I think even pricing as well. Pricing is the knowledge that you might not have all the leverage yet. You know, if a nice famous quote that I used to hear a lot, I think it was Jalen Rose who introduced me to his basketball player. He says, "You don't get what you deserve. You get what you have the leverage to negotiate." And that's just honestly, it's like, in as much as I'm getting all these gigs and everything, I already know that my voice, my presence is worth way more than people are giving me. As a matter of fact, when people come and meet me at this stage, I can tell they feel like in as much as like, you know, they can go to a bunch of different people, they're satisfied with what they get. They're satisfied with what they get. And in reality, I'm sure if I ask them, is serious, like if we really sat and deep it, they know I'm worth more than that. But in this initial stage, like I said, you're still building the leverage, but I understand fully. And that's part of the reason I still do marketing. I still bring things to my page. Like I understand fully that once I get that, it will just, you know, demand a certain uptick in prices. Oh crap, I was going to say something else, but I think I've forgotten, but that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
So I also talked about mentorship. So, you know, there's mentorship.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do have a mentor. He's someone who owns an ad agency.
Okay.
And he's just good advice. He's also Christian as well. So he's able to give me a bit of the advice on that end as well. And the truth is, like, we don't even talk particularly frequently like that. But when we catch up, it's always kind of like just a progress report and him feeling like he needs to guide me in certain ways. So now, for example, I'm currently trying to build out a creative agency of my own, like a boutique creative agency.
Okay.
And he's had a lot of like advice on like spending money and things like that. So like, it's funny enough, like one of the greatest pieces of advice he's given me to date. How did he say it? It was about failure. He says, I think he said, you have permission to fail, or something along those lines. You have permission to fail. It wasn't exactly those words, but that's essentially what it was. Like, fail quickly now, Seth, is what he says. Like, if you're going to fail, get it over with.
Yeah.
So that you can learn from it and just kind of move on from it. And that really just gave me permission to chase my dreams hardcore, because like it's not a settled job in terms of like revenue or whatever. And also I should add that like even as I'm doing this, as I'm chasing this actively, when people approach me for jobs potentially, like I'll still apply. Like a friend sent a job to me the other day and I applied just to kind of like see if it was something that I'd be interested in. So I'm not even cutting the 9 to 5 thing out of the equation entirely. Like it would be nice to have an arrangement in which like I could still do what I want to do and have a
like
9 to 5.
like
But
more remote and flexible working.
Absolutely. Funny enough, my last job was very flexible, but even more flexible than that is what I would be looking for now because I have more commitments than I did then.
Okay.
Yeah, like just he really gave me good advice, and this is my mentor that I'm speaking about. And every now and again, we just check in. He's also helped with gigs and things like that too. So yeah, I think mentorship is definitely important. And even if not mentorship, something I used to live by, and I still do, even though I sometimes forget. There are 4 things that I think are super important for people that are chasing their dreams. At least for me, it has worked for me.
Yeah.
I'm not make the recommendation for everybody else, but like it has really been dope. The first one is dream big. So just dream without limitations. Don't be afraid of anything. It's your brain, it's your dream. Shoot for the moon. Write those dreams down. It's super important. There's a testimony that I have to this, but I feel like we've talked for so long. I'll probably share it another time if I get a chance.
No problem.
Tell people about it. So writing the dreams down is super important. So like you can always refer to it on the days when you maybe might forget. You know how you have those days where it's like people think, am I even really accomplish anything in this life? Am I chasing anything? Do I have any dreams? Do I have any goals? Those things will remind you that you do, and it'll give you a vision to keep working towards. Tell people about it. This one is very self-explanatory. You do not know who or what knows who or what. You know, like who can help you with what, like who can speak for you or advocate in a room that you're not in and you probably have no business being in. You just have no idea. And the final one is just keep going. Just keep going because you don't know where your breakthrough is coming from. You don't know if it's a foot away. You don't know if it's a mile away. You don't know if it's if it's light years away, but just keep going. Like it doesn't matter. For some people, there's this powerful image that is very like cliched and old, but it's like of 2 guys digging in 2 separate tunnels. And at the end of the tunnel above, there's gold right next to where the guy is about to dig, but he's turning back because he's giving up. And then the guy beyond is digging with so much enthusiasm. And obviously he's going to get to the gold because like he's still so in it, you know? So I think that's the way to approach it as well, where it's like, you really don't know where that breakthrough is coming from. And I can tell you from personal experience, doing things and putting yourself out there to ensure that like these things, like talking about your dreams and all these things that I've mentioned, they'll get you closer to it rather than farther. Like even when you fail, you're closer because you've learned what you need to do. You've taken a brave step. With life, a lot of the times, and also with God, like sometimes the steps reveal themselves from underneath our feet. We're only required to make that stick the foot out. So you stick the foot out and then the path starts to become clear when you land your feet. It's not that the path is immediately illuminated. Sometimes it is literally like shown to you because you've taken the first step. And I'm a personal testimony for that. That video was one of my first steps. I'd taken several other before, but that was one of those ones that I could mark down. And God said, this thing that you have done is going to open things for you. So yeah, like just be brave about it. I think also this is an important one. I'll end on this. Don't attach yourself to the results so much.
Okay.
Don't attach yourself to the results. And this was about mentorship, but I veered off into something else. I heard this story. It was Oprah. It was like some guy who worked at Oprah who told the story. He had a podcast and he had been hosting it, doing like just content. I think he was like also a matchmaker. So he would like do matchmaking for people and whatnot. And he was putting content out and getting 10, 11, 12, 13 views. And he said like maybe 9 of them was his mom's. He was just trying to support him. Right. And then he matchmake for somebody, like did some matchmaking for somebody. And this person just so happened to work for O Magazine, which is Oprah's magazine. And on one random day, they're on the same flights. Like he's on Oprah's private jet, I guess. And then Oprah is like talking about a program she has, like an idea that she wants to put a host for, but she can't really think of anybody, but she wants a fresh face, maybe somebody that hasn't been used before. And then the person that the guy had done the matchmaking for, like Oprah's employee, she suggests he suggests him. I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but the person suggests the guy to Oprah. So now the guy is still putting out content on a regular basis. But Oprah has now joined the fray of people who are listening. She just bookmarked and I was watching this in her spare time. So he's getting the same 13, 14, 15 views. But one of those views is Oprah Winfrey. And eventually, after a while of watching him and being convinced, she reaches out to him and she's like, oh, she wants to work with the guy. Fast forward to him making more money than he's ever made in his life. I say that to say, sometimes the result is not, I'm going to say sometimes, most of the time, the result is actually not even in the number of views and things like that. Those things are nice, but you have no idea who is watching. You have no idea what that is creating. So like even today, I put out a video of me like going through my creative process for Kenny for voiceovers and being frustrated when they weren't going well. In as much as it was nice content to put out there, it's also me trying to stay top of mind. So people say, oh, this guy still does voiceovers. And the next time they don't have a voiceover to do, even if they don't necessarily come to me, maybe I cross their mind because they saw the video. You know, so yeah, like it's not always about like, I'm not saying not always. Sometimes it is because I think numbers help you with negotiating and leverage as well. But you'd be shocked that like one view, like an Oprah Winfrey, for example, will just outdo all the work that you've put in, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, just even to add to that example, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy that, you know, do you watch Lions Den, first of all? Do you watch Lions Den?
I've seen it. I don't watch it regularly, but I've seen it.
Okay, so there was this instance where this guy came with an idea. He sold it to them and he got rejected by, I think, 4 of them.
Okay.
I think 6 months down the line, he became, is it 6 months or a year or some years afterwards? I've forgotten the specifics, right? And he became part of them. So what I mean is that, you know, he sold an idea that people did not believe in. He failed, he got rejected. But at the end of the day, somehow, that platform also still, he didn't give up on his dream. He still kept on pursuing it, even though he was rejected. He got, you know, he got invested. And at the end of the day, he became, you know, one of the Zen masters of business.
Yeah.
You know, so as I said, everybody has a story. Everybody has a road. You know, being, you know, focused on God and at the same time being passionate about what you do is very key to having a successful career in anything that you do, even whether it's storytelling, whether it is, you know, in business, because what you realize is that whether or not you are good at what you do, but you don't enjoy it, you realize that you get frustrated. You realize,
for sure.
Yeah. So I think it boils down to those 2 things in which you had mentioned earlier, whereby, you know, you need to be centered on God. Don't lose sight on God, regardless of whether you are successful or failing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the same time, being passionate about it, you know.
Yeah,
that is what is very key. But you know, so just a bit of rewind before we sort of close. Yeah, you know.
Okay.
Would you say that the fact, because remember that, at least for me, let me just use me as an example, right? I have a very, very, very thick skin, right? A lot of people don't get to me because, one, you know, I would say I have failed to some degree, you know, and I don't think there's anything that can really move me in regards to whether I'm rejected, whether I'm, because in my mind, I'm like, I've experienced worse, man, you know.
Yeah, I've seen worse.
I've been scolded in manners that I don't think that will make some grown men cry. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm like, this can't affect me, right? What exactly can, you know, I've disappointed worse people, right? So in a sense, if I am failing someone's expectation, in my mind, I'm like, as long as I'm doing what I need to do, as long as I'm fine with what I'm doing, as long as it's not embarrassing or, you know, below what I believe I ought to do at this point, it doesn't really faze me. You know, that's for me, because as I said, I think I failed to, a very large magnitude to begin with anyway. So I don't think any
Yeah.
really can be classified as failure again for me, except
Yeah.
for my fear of again, right?
Yeah. Feeling is so important, man.
Yeah,
God,
because
it's so
it
important.
gives you that whole, you know what, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get back to that. It's just like maybe if you grow up in a poor home, you're most likely not going to want to be poor again because
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
you faced what hardship is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that's what made me what I am in the sense that I don't mind trying new things. I could be impulsive in, in doing things. I could decide all of a sudden I want to try this or I don't want to do this, right?
Yeah.
As me.
Yeah.
But would you
Hmm.
say to a certain degree, you failing at law,
Hmm.
you know, was also something that impacted your passion towards what you're doing now?
Definitely. Definitely. Law, like failing at law really set me on it. Okay, so I'll give you an example. After I failed at law, I was like, when I came back home,
Mm.
obviously I'd failed, like my parents had spent money. So like I was my confidence was shot.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
shot. And it shouldn't have been necessarily. I mean, it should have, but like in the sense that this was a decision I made with my two hands, I probably shouldn't have been as disappointed. But
yeah,
naturally now, like you failed, you didn't do what you went out to do, you've come back in shame.
yeah.
So like at that period of my life, bro, like I used to tiptoe around the house. And it's not even like I have super wicked parents. So after day
Mm-hmm.
one of like being upset or whatever, and like
Mm.
everything, like life goes on now. Like you
Yeah.
probably have more conversations, but you still eat, you get like you be fine.
They will feed you
Um
now, your parents now.
like, Gara. They will even ask if you've eaten go.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but
In
you don't
fact,
even want to hear that.
the
That's
AC will be on so that you are still
of
trying to
course,
settle,
of course,
trying to
of
settle down
course,
with the weather.
of course, of course. Naturally, and I thank God for loving parents, man.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I even used to tiptoe around the house during that period because I didn't even want to just like nobody should acknowledge that I'm alive. That's I isolated myself from most of my friends, all that stuff, and it really set me on a course of just like figuring myself out anew. So I didn't have all those things to depend on before I came to PAU. So I was just there, just soul searching, trying to beat my way out of depression, trying to keep my spirits up. It was very hard. But like eventually, got to school, and then that was like my structure, right? So the structure that I maybe didn't have at home and would have allowed my depression to fester even more, at least in school, you're occupied.
Yeah. A lot of people
Like
around.
yeah, but like I said, after going through law and like flunking, it was like, okay, what next? And I started to find my identity in other stuff. So like even I had heard people, so like I remember reading passages in Canada and the people was like, wow, you speak really well. But at that time it didn't mean as much because my brain wasn't thinking in this direction. But eventually I went to PAU and it was something I started to hear frequently. I started to hear more frequently. People say you speak well.
Yeah.
I started to become more conscious of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm capable of trying different things out. So I remember hosting a couple of like podcast type things.
Yeah.
I hosted at even like our graduation events as well, which I thought about the other day. It was very random. But just opportunities like that kept coming up, especially because even I should also mention them. The Mr. Ken, who was the head of the media kidney, he would always request voiceovers from me. So I was constantly voicing stuff for him.
Yeah.
And also, how can I forget his name? It's so bad, but like his assistant as well. So he would always ask me for stuff. And that also just kind of like set me off on that journey too. So like back to saying community, like people will sometimes point out something that you're good at before you can ever realize it's in yourself. I had maybe thought about my voice being worth something, but it became real to me during that period, So yeah, failing law definitely set me on the right course. And, as much as it felt like such a sad thing at the time, it was necessary. It was a necessary growth for my character.
Yeah. Well, this was a very refreshing, and I feel like we're trying to unpack a lot of things, right? So maybe we might have like a second segment, but
Sure.
But this was a very great and refreshing talk, and thank you very much for coming on this talk.
No worries, man.
So, and as I said, we'll have a second session just to
sure,
because we definitely need it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Take care.
Bless, brother. Bless, brother. Yeah.